throughout the game. If you guys want to hang around, feel free to do so.
GG guys, GG.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Never ban Coco, please. No, it was a super good ban.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done to it.
I was just watching your VODs and I was like, oh my god.
We were counting on it. You guys run like 3 to 4 blue balls every attack and defense.
Yeah, with the double G5 meta, you have to take a blue Coco. Yum. But actually, I was expecting that till you ban Coco, you was expecting us to don't defend in the wall, in the tower. So I was like, okay, I will still do it. But you still got a good comp for pushing it.
Alright, guys.
You did well, and we did a little mistake that make us lose. So
yeah, good to see. Alright, amazing to have both of you in here. I'll just have you take a look at the draft here from both teams, and then you guys can go elsewhere.
Oh my gosh!
What do you think?
Look at that.
Chevys.
Oh no.
I mean, it looks like Argonautes does have a lot of for the Brachio stuff, but
they will defend B again, I think.
Like they will. Yeah. And then Argonauts has lots of anti-cab at least, which is good, but that won't beat the Chevys.
Yeah, that's not gonna beat. Yeah.
They don't even really have any cav as well, right?
I think this would have been really close for the Argonauts to paint their major lavas.
No Chevys from Argonauts either.
Because the Chevys
are very good.
It's going to be a rough one here.
But that's the thing
with the French caster.
Alright. That's the thing with these maps with A on the wall and B on the floors. You never, as attackers, you have to prepare for any situation, or you have to gamble. And then defense can choose.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of, like, before the match, you basically have the advantage as the defender, I guess, and then when the match starts, the attacker should be kind of deciding where to fight and when to fight, but...
Yeah, looking back at it, we probably would have won had we brought full infantry, because they all had a second unit of cav.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's just
well, I mean, we did bring mostly full infantry, but like defend A.
It's a Sally though, it's a Sally. Well, not all of it. It's kind of interesting.
One Sally.
Alright, full bait there. Corn Berserker.
Corn.
Oh, in the trap.
Representing NA.
First victim of the day.
Was that Kishi?
I think it's Scout Cav.
That's bull right there. It's green.
Oh, yeah, bull riders. That's a good one. I'm curious to see. Alright, they must have spotted now that. Oh, whoa, yeah, this is a bait. That was a bow rider still, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, Argonaut is happy on the trigger finger there.
They should back this. They should back these impikes up. They don't want to lose these.
Yep.
Wait, CBR, are we allowed to be here?
Yeah, you guys are commentating right now, so yeah.
Let's go.
There are tryouts.
What is this going to be? It looks like a semi-selly out.
I
don't know why Argonauts isn't punishing them for coming out the gate this much.
Do you feel like they should be grouping already at the gate with the units and try and like push them a little bit, or?
Well, I feel like they should at least group to stop the Sally, like because you never know what they're gonna do. But there's no point in hiding behind those fences.
Yeah. So you guys were one of the only teams to counter Liao actually on this map as well. Looking at this, might be a similar setup, I think. What would Argonauts have to do in order to win this match?
Well, on our attack, we went almost as much cav as kebabs. I think we had like just a few more infantry, but those were like Madaus, if any infantry. But man, it was just honestly a toss-up. Like we ran through and
it was pretty lucky.
We had some good rotations, but Liao was pretty stupid right now.
Yeah, kebabs actually had over-rotated. I went and drew them back to their home point. The 3 of them came back for me, and we forced through the gate.
Interesting.
Oh, little fight on the wall.
From,
I don't think Serfslayer should be wasting units on the wall here. Those blue units are important for the final like few minutes.
Yeah, so free A cap, that's for sure. Lots of cav meanwhile. A couple of outriders as well. We haven't seen those in
a lot of Jav cav.
Yeah.
Oh, Serfslayer has shield maidens on the supply.
Probably to stop the anti-cav.
Divers, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so
they're just
Serfslayer
waiting
is
for
playing
him.
very aggressively into Argonautes here.
All those guys with the blue units are probably gonna pull their gold cap on the supply as soon as they start pushing.
I remember
here's
the
gold cap.
oh. I remember the first time we scrimmed Serfslayer when they did this strat. I think it was 2 seasons ago, and it caught us off guard so hard, and we just got stomped. We got ran over.
You never see a B defense. This is like the Serfslayer special.
Yeah, it's interesting. They tried to do it first time on CBR, I think, against Blame Elias, and then it didn't work out that well because Blame Elias won that game like easy. In a way,
We scrimmed them that week, and it worked on us, and then they did against Blame Elias, and I guess it just didn't work.
Yeah. Alright, so Argonaut is definitely taking the time now. I think it's smart because they need to find like the perfect setup probably, right, to engage on this.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, but they do have anti-cav, which is a good start.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Lots of anti-cav. Good lord.
It's like they want to group up and then just simply brace out their pegs together, and hopefully it stops the cap.
Yeah.
They are kind of split right now. I think they're trying to decide what to do.
Yeah. And then also with all the anti-cav, I also wonder if they are quick enough, right? Like you mentioned, the Chevaliers, if they take too much time by just sitting there and waiting for the cav to come in with the Outriders and the Chevaliers, Serfslayer can just wither down on the units.
Yeah, that's definitely scary because you could have pikes to stop a charge, but with a whole bunch of crossbows right behind, pikes don't have shields.
Right,
it might be a little more dancing because Argonauts is still split.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very strange.
Oh, right now Serfslayers can crunch that left side.
Yeah, if Serfslayers want to collapse, they very well could.
Oh, looks like Argonauts starting to regroup together.
Got to be careful here though. Those slow pikes are going to be very slow on the rotate.
Yeah,
this map is also really long.
Yep.
Long time, so that's why there's usually a bunch of hero dives, but you can't dive when there's like all that cav.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could try and dive those crossbows, of course, but that might be very hard in between everything. It's even Zakalian Militia, by the way. That's a good one. From Serfslayer.
So I believe what the Zakalian Militia is used for is that if like the Argonauts try to like go into the gate, like a tiny gate, so there's only 2 entrances, you can just turn the Cocos in there to hit all the units together.
Yeah, this may look like a full cav, but honestly, it really isn't. It's like there's two Zakalian right now, 2 Chevaliers, a unit of Shenji.
Oh, the retreating units. Watch the retreating units.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, so they get out. Oh, the Falcos.
Oh,
yeah, Falcos.
Nice catch.
That's a good one. Oh, I think
I guess
8 or so got out probably. Yeah. Oh, there's even more out there.
They didn't bring the
They should go now.
They engage though.
There's like 4 Serfslayers out of position.
Right, so right now Argonauts just fighting the... Oh yeah, they might be going for base. They might be going for base. This will be interesting. Alright, so Argonauts are going to go and pick the fight, but they will also be running for the base at the same time. Serfslayer most likely going to win this fight.
Yeah, it depends if they can stuff them at the tunnel and then keep capping home and stall them, but let's see if Serfslayers can get through the tunnel in time. Looks like they're starting to.
Yeah,
you have to kill.
I think critically here, this unit of Shenji there, and also Turbo Soup, Berserker now on the point as well.
Yeah,
Serfslayer is coming in with there's not going to be enough anti-cav.
I think Serfslayer just cleans up here.
Yep.
Yeah, oh, they spawn right on top of them too. Yeah. That's heartbreaking.
This is going
well, Argonauts capped the spawn supply, but I don't think that's going to help right now.
Yeah, unless they can stop them for long enough to get some units out, but that is interrupted as well, so not going to work out well. Grim is going to pick up a couple kills here. Now, how quickly can Argonauts reset as well? Because they might be able to get the B if they are quick. But the timers on their death might be too long, only now starting to
That was a good try from Argonauts. I think if their whole team got through the tunnel before the engagement, they could have stalled long enough. But a few of them couldn't get through the tunnel in time before the cav charged in.
Yeah. Hey, they did capture more than half of it, so that's a really good chunk there. Alright, all the kills are coming in. Let's see who's the Greatest beneficiary. Alright, Argonautes got 7 minutes on the clock, so they can reconsider what they do. Here are your Falconetti, only 9 left, so 3 were killed.
Flames.
Or it could be Metal Break.
Oh, they have
No,
double
no.
Falcos.
Yeah, they have double Falcos now.
And double Flames.
How? Okay, the Flames are pretty good, I think, against this setup,
Yeah.
but how are the Falcos? I mean, there is a lot of ranged cav, of course.
Yeah, you gotta watch the Jav Cav.
Yeah, Blood Story once again doing really well. He's been getting so many unit kills all the time. Flare Star as well. I just want to point out Flare Star was like 5th or 6th in the most unit kills last week, and he jumped up to 3rd place in 1 week, so he got over 220, I think.
Oh, I wonder what Argonautes is gonna try to do now.
See this dual
I wonder if they're gonna try the same push.
Oh, they see him. Wait, no, they don't.
He's gone.
Wow,
Ooh.
He's gone.
that was scary.
Yes.
Oh, here comes the other one.
Ooh.
Oh,
Ah,
got it.
that
Wow.
is aggressive, Yan.
And is he gonna get out?
He's gonna get some support and they won't chase. Yeah, there
Wow.
Very nice.
he is. And the other one.
I love seeing dual blades. Being a dual blade myself, it makes me so happy to see them.
Yeah, that's a lot of special.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So, with these units doing the same strat again, I think it will be hard. Also, Serfslayer definitely defending the base this time.
Yeah, they're ready for it now.
Ooh, yeah, he got a run. He's getting it.
Wow.
I
Oh,
believe they
actually-
want to use the Flamers and the Falco to make like a dead zone for the camp.
Oh my god. Alright, Yan is definitely skill checking today.
It's a nice job.
Alright, nice block. Argonauts are gonna do the same though, right? So, ooh, Imp Shields for the Bracho Brace, that's good. Can they get through the tunnel though? That's the question. And also, what's waiting for them on the other side this time?
The Falcos at the end.
Oh my
Look at the
god.
back there.
Oh
shit.
no.
That's gonna hurt. It's all
Oh.
gone. Grim picking up a lot of those kills. Also Kublai getting the quad kill. Yan getting the
Oh,
quad
man.
kill. Yan getting the no quarter. Alright, Serfslayer is going to lose on this defense here.
This Cav meta is so filthy.
I think Argonauts either should have been faster as a team or slower because they were kind of split. Some went through the tunnel and some didn't. They either should have all coordinated it and go in together, or wait till everyone's grouped up and then go in. Because some of them, if once some go in the tunnel, they can be hit from the front, and then the ones that don't go in are hit from every direction.
I think for the first fight, they should have all gone through the tunnel, but then for the second fight, they all should have stayed out of the tunnel because they were waiting on home for them. Just
Yeah,
pick
exactly.
the defense apart piece by piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could have like played around the, because like if you have 2 Flamers, you can make a permanent, like you can permanently burn in one direction. But they could say like have the Flamers all like cycle their ability at the front, and then the no cap can approach them.
Yeah, makes sense. I
Use
like
the
how you
classic
could
gate
see.
hold.
Yeah, I really like how you could see Serfslayer actually rotating the strategy based on what Argonauts were doing as well. You can see how they really practice this a lot, right?
Very adaptive.
Yeah.
It's really good in a high-end team.
Do you feel?
Yeah, the Serfslayer,
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
Serfslayer cav is very fluid, and they always cross charge at the right times. It's really impressive.
Yeah, exactly. Right, Argonauts is trying to make another attempt. This time going for B, so they are definitely switching
have
up
some-
strategies. That's interesting.
They have some okay units left, it looks
Yeah.
like.
There's a couple ones.
Yeah, Argonauts are just so split right now. They should group
Yeah, they're
up first and then
probably
push
going
together.
A
But
bit too deep in as well. I feel like they are leaving a lot of room for Serfslayer to go back in. And charge from the front. Yeah, even the charge from the front is going in. Now the back is coming in as well.
Back. Oh, they just cut right through in the front,
Yep.
man.
And gone they are. Alright, that was an easy wipe for Serfslayer. I don't think they even lost almost a single unit in this exchange.
Heartbreaking.
Yep. Alright. Yan sitting on 7 hero kills there on the dual blade. That makes you proud, people, I imagine. The average of most hero kills throughout the season is around 6 in a map, by the way, or 6 in a game.
Flare Star with 130 unit kills.
Yeah. Yeah, he's absolutely on a rampage last 2 weeks. Well, this wasn't the kind of match I was expecting. Well, the result was definitely what I expected, but not in this way.
Yeah, I didn't expect all the Chevys after the nerf, but they're still a decent unit, and if you defend B, you have the supply right there, so it makes sense.
Absolutely. So, what do we expect then from the next game? Serfslayer will be attacking, of course.
I think.
I think Serfslayer will go 1 infantry, 1 cav. That's what I'm anticipating.
Yeah, definitely more infantry just to be safe, but I think they're still gonna use plenty of cav.
Or they say no infantry and they just go full B.
No infantry full B. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, that's the other thing. So clearly there's a gap between super high skilled teams and less high skilled teams in terms of how they execute cav and counter cav. So is a really good team like Serfslayer with pure cav able to take on a map like this against a team that's maybe well prepared with full anti-cav?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in this meta, I think cav is the best anti-cav. It's especially with Chevy, like, yeah, they got nerfed, but, you know, they could still definitely kill pikes just because the crossbows won't get blocked by any shields, so it's hard to rely on anti-cav units when you could just play cav instead.
Yeah. And also, Chevaliers are kind of in a weird space as well, right? Do you call them cav or do you call them ranged? Or specialist unit, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
I'm glad Chevy's got nerfed though, because they are just way too strong.
Yeah,
and I think they're balanced now. I think they're still a good unit.
Yeah, definitely might be, yeah. All right, Serfslayer picking up the win. Don't want to miss that. If it wasn't clear for anyone else, Argonautes is sitting with 0 in this match. We'll go to the second game as well. I'm just gonna quickly go over the heroes. What happened here? Corn Berserker picking up the MVP. Could have been anyone, to be honest. For example, Flare Star 127 unit kills, or Yan with the 7 hero kills. But yeah, that's what happened. We'll quickly just go over them. I'm not sure if there's anything specific you guys would like to take a look at.
Ooh, look at Mask.
Yeah.
Is that 40 Shield Maidens?
That is 42 Shield Maidens. Yep, he knows his way around those. That is impressive. Yeah. Well, good counter by Walbin. He at least got plenty of those.
Oh, so Serfslayers have been using all the blue crossbows.
Yeah, it looks like, 17, 3, 14. There's definitely a lot of the blue crossbows, yeah. And I think, there was definitely the mix of the crossbows for Argonautes.
The blue crossbows is better for using pads and doesn't have the top off.
This is one of the roughest graphs I've seen in Conquerors Blade history. Right,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to counter cav right now if you have infantry. It really is.
It certainly looks like it. Alright, time to set up the second game.
Alright, I'm gonna step out, go get some pizza.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. Yeah, see ya.
See ya.
Yeah, guys.
See ya. I'll stick around for this last one.
Alright, nice. It's always good. Yeah, so
I'm glad the lobbies came back just in time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really like to see like how so many nice, how so many teams are actually changing how maps are being played. Like Serfslayer is really showing a different way of playing cav. You guys have really improved the ranged play, surprisingly, I think. But and then you have no beaches with the Zicalian militia, who are just like so oppressive in their hands together with the muskets that you just almost have to ban them if you want to go on the A wall.
Yeah, and definitely the Zicalian is super strong now because with the plus 40 leadership, you could run that with the double gold. I know when I was making unit comps before the plus 40, I was like, does anybody have 795 leadership? Because you could run, you know, Kata or Shield Maiden, Kata and Shield Maiden with the Zicalian then. But nobody had 795, which is really hard to get. So.
Yep. Let's see. Matching as well. Yeah, definitely true. I mean, with how much leadership there is as well, it's just insane. Like, you're one of the few players who has played a lot on the tournament server where you have 700 leadership. It's such a vastly different meta or game if you play on with 700, right?
Yeah, and the no death limit thing also changes things immensely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I prefer no deaths, no death limit. It's just it keeps the game like more active throughout the whole match.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just get blown up by units, even if you're a short sword. You could just die anywhere sometimes, and kind of makes it boring when like you have units, but you die 3 times and you can't do anything then.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, definitely true. I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag at the same time. I mean, sometimes you get those games where people just die over and over and over by suiciding, and then it's kind of like, is this really what you want? Right? 15 guys going for 2 specialist units, and then they get them, and that's it. There's no real penalty. And then also you have those games where the game is over after 5 minutes because of a Sally, for example. No units left, and you have to wait and sit around for 10 minutes. Where with the 3 death limit, then at least the game would be over. So
it changes the way the game is played.
Yeah, that sure does. Yeah.
And I mean, things like jumping for Falcos, you know, suiciding, won't happen as much when you have a death limit.
Yeah.
Some people argue for it, some people argue against it. I mean, for me, I like it this way.
Yep.
More suicides is fun.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, we're gonna start again. Are you guys ready?
I am.
Yep.
Alright, here we go. Alright, it's game 2 of our second match of the day. Argonautes in the attack, this time Serfslayer on the defense. I'm gonna have to quickly switch everything up. Yeah, it is switched. Good. Ben's still the same, of course. Liao, Scatterfact, and Modao. So let's find out what Serfslayer want to play, because they clearly got the initiative on this one.
Okay, let's see what they choose.
I'm pretty sure they will choose violence. But in what form? Alright, still double purple for Argonautes so far. That's also something. So on the tournament server, Serfslayer was one of the first teams when they were winning CBL as well, who figured out that triple purple is actually really good. Right now the meta seems to be heavily favored towards like double gold, which also gives you more time, I guess, to execute the fights, because you need to make it count.
At least they're not playing double cav now.
Yeah, it definitely makes this time. Well, and also kind of makes sense, right? You need to get A as well at the very least. Although you could also go for B, but it is tricky.
Yeah, I think it's possible, but I think it's hard to double cav to take B on attack, because without Liao's is what I mean, because Liao's can turn the corner and insta kill even anti-cav, but Cataphracts, they could turn and they might kill or they might die, but you have to get your hero through first. But with Liao, you just walk up in and press 2 and they'll turn the corner instantly.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Cataphracts also banned, of course, in this match, so that leaves you with the option
that's true.
to actually bring
So going through the gate would be difficult with Cav.
Alright, let's see where Argonautes decide to go as well. Definitely, I feel like they did expect a lot of Cav. Look at the amount of Fortubracho here sitting at the gate, Imperial Pikes, Flamers.
Yeah, also the new Pike Doctrine with the bleed sounds really strong. Only a couple people on our team have it right now, but we're all trying to get the new Pike Doctrine, where it's just huge bleed damage.
It really is, and it even works on the advance of Imperial Pikes, which makes that Liaos just die instantly. But it's so hard to get currently.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any of the new doctrines yet. Like the
Oh.
shield one, the CC
Oh, really?
immune, nope.
Oh, damn.
These pike ones, nope.
Yeah, yeah.
Tough.
That is tough indeed. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I feel like clearly now it kind of makes sense that they buffed all the cav. Oh, Grim taken out there. They are diving for the flamers. There are diving. Jan sitting on the side. They're doing what you want, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like upcoming patch, they're buffing a lot of units as well. Like
yeah,
but also for the Braccio, they have not revealed what they're doing to the unit.
Yeah, same for the in Pikes, right? Also the Harbier Sergeants. So
you're gonna be so happy that they buffed that unit.
yeah, I'm very excited.
Reapers are supposed to be insane, but that's just speculation, though.
Yeah, they've made some good unit changes recently. As far as I mean, the cav is annoying, like the spam of cav, but like all the other units that got buffs in the last couple months have been, and then the upcoming patch, like I really like all the new changes with the unused units.
Yep. Yeah, let's focus on the fight here because Argonautes are getting ripped apart by Serfslayer, just heroes going in after every single specialist unit that they see, also trying to capture their the gate is still
Have they
holding.
gotten any specialty yet? I can't tell.
Can't tell yet. We'll have to see. Yep.
Oh,
Falconetti
one
down,
flamer, one
Sifo down.
Falco.
Another Sifo down from Wolf Silent, only one left, so that's not much. So yeah, they definitely get a lot. Also Chevaliers here being picked apart.
Serfslayer might try to rotate. Oh no, they didn't push the B tower.
No,
Because last time against No Beaches, when I was watching the VOD to study No Beaches, Serfslayer did that hero dive and then pushed the tab left tower, which allowed them to get a foothold and not get stopped at the tower.
Yeah, I feel like it might have been an overlook because they are pushing it now, despite they're already been pushing for a long time. Like the serfs are up here, so probably climb the ladder.
Getting those unit kills.
Alright. Surf getting up on the wall though. Let's see where they go. It should be A, I think.
Yeah, I think they should want to take A so they can spawn at the gate. And then they can secure their cav.
Alright, looks like Serfslayer slowing down a little bit after being very aggressive. So quickly going back to Liao. So I think it kind of makes sense now with Liao and all the other cav getting a buff after this like doctrine, but a doctrine, like you said, it's so hard to get it, so it's kind of like a nerf to cav, I guess. Getting a doctrine that counters cav, but at the same time it's also so hard to have access to it. So
yeah, and also the fact that it was not announced, and like for me that was a little bit of disappointment because I could not save as much as some other people.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Drop chance is just so low.
Yeah. I spent I think 200 doctrines to get the spear ones, but now I feel like should have saved those for this one.
Yeah.
And exactly right. We did not know the others were coming, and
alright, let's focus on the fight because Serfslayer is going in from both directions. Looks like Argonautes only focusing on the left side of the screen here. So
Serfslayer's gonna hit him in the back really hard.
Yep. That's gonna hurt. Oh, Flare Star again, first in the fight. He wants to boost his unit kill score even more. Salvatine, Segi, and Fury still sitting at the gate, but they're watching their team die there.
Yeah. Serfslayer's just gonna push forward and clean up all the units that are slow to rotate. I think those Fortebraccio, once they saw Serfslayers coming up the wall, it doesn't even seem like Serfslayers had cav. Those 40s either should have swapped or at least helped on A. But they kind of just stayed at the gate and now they're getting picked for free.
Definitely too late and too little to rotate. A cap for free. You guys were very aggressive actually in your game on the attack, going for the push through as well. Almost cost you a little bit, I think.
Yeah, we had to break through some way, and we saw there were quite a few people on A, and it'd be hard to push up the siege tower with all the No Beaches muskets, so we tried to go through the front gate.
Alright, B being captured at the same time, so this will be a full base defense. This is the time when Serfslayer can pull out all the cav. I do wonder if they also want to like go around again, use the time, dive some specialists, and then go in. which is what they've been doing quite often.
Yeah, it's possible. I think when the push starts, I think Serfslayer will have mostly infantry or the remaining infantry to get a foothold first, and then they're gonna pull all their cav.
Oh, it's definitely the 1-2 punch that's working really well for most teams. Yeah, you guys were really wanting to hold this position, but you weren't able to, and Serfslayer is also trying to get on there only with the heroes though, since the Fenrir will make short work of these, of course. How important is this position according to you, Pine? Because you were really wanting to defend it.
Yeah, I thought it was really important so they don't have the high ground, but I think I focused too much on that because then we got trapped on that wall.
Mm-hmm.
So little mistake from me to try to reinforce the wall, but yeah, they actually sent up Namkhans up there, no beaches, and
Yeah,
if they get a lot of shots for free, that could be annoying to our specialty units.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, it wasn't worth all the resources we put on top there.
Yeah, eating a trap definitely was a hard spot. Alright, Gorm Berserker picking up a hero kill there, and does look like Serfslayer sweeping to a bit of infantry there, a lot of infantry actually. Even Salem Sheets being played, I like it.
Oh wow.
Alright, let's see.
Alright, looks like Serfslayer is trying to look at the spawn, see if it's possible.
Yeah, Chevaliers though, like you're gonna think twice if you see Chevaliers and Hussars sitting in that spot there. Lots of Chevaliers out still. Oh, nice flanker with the sense of Fenrir, but that's going to be stopped by the shield maidens. Not gonna get to those fucking out here.
Does Argonauts have Falcos at all, or?
I'm pretty sure
they
they
lose
all
them
died.
all
Yeah,
already?
they all died. Yeah.
Oh man.
They had 2 Flamers and 1 Falco, and they got all 3 of those.
Wow.
Yeah, right, so Argonautes players are trying to force something where there isn't much to gain. Serfslayer got a strong foothold here. Look at the amount of Chevaliers though. There's like 1, 2, I think 3. Lots of Hussars as well. 4. Ooh, another one. Yen should have started this rampage on the Deal Blade sooner this season. Maybe you could have contested Amia for the first place on the hero kills, but Mother Breakers units, I think they're retreating. Getting killed as well.
Oh no.
That's sad. They were sitting in that corner here.
I think once Serfslayer actually pushes, I think it's just over.
Yep. Yeah, they've been gaining so much ground just little by little. Here comes the push. Infantry first. This corner was very weak now. Only Imperial Pike and Fortebraccio that will be run over. Salem Sheets even going around. Monastics counter charge. Here comes the Hussars probably from Argonautes. Also the Chevalier setting at the front. Trap is going to
that
come
might
in
be
as
a good trap.
Yep. Ooh, Drows
Yeah, all that cav is coming in from one direction, and Serfslayer is just ready for that.
Yeah,
that's a good Hussar flank. They might get some of those crossbows.
Maybe with the Fortebraccio flank there.
Yeah, they get stopped still.
Yep. Here comes more though. But also on the front still. Fortebraccio, Chevaliers. And we should be expecting new units.
Serfslayers have a faster respawn as well too, because fewer of them have died. So I think they'll come in with cav right now and just clean it up.
I'm actually already surprised by how much Argonauts were able to kill, to be honest. They only have 380 left though. 650 is coming in now from Serfslayer. Here will be a lot of cav. Ooh, nice charge in there from what was probably...
Was that a monastic?
Yeah, lots of monastics being played as well. But here comes the cav from Serfslayer. Also still the block on a supply. This should be done in about 30 seconds or so.
That's pretty much over.
Yeah, there's the shield maidens, 2 of them on the supply together with the Hussars. Wolf Silent Turbos up, making sure no heroes can get on there. Mass Flames with the Hussars also coming in. And of course, there's also Flare Star. Oh, they're not even capping, they just wanna keep. Oh, this is BM, boys, this is BM. They just wanna get some more.
Pad the stats. Pad the stats.
Yeah, pad the stats.
Oh my
Extend the
God.
season for as long as you can. A couple for Bracho here to pick up Flare Star. He's definitely aiming for that #1 spot, I feel like.
A little BM, but it is pretty
It
fun
is.
to watch.
It is, yeah. It is good to watch. Nice to see Serfslayer so active. They had a rough start to the season, going down 2-0, but they definitely came back strong later in the season, so that's always good. Alright, nice attack there. FDS Light this time picking up the MVP for Serfslayer. Just gonna check where... Alright, Yen again 7 hero kills, pretty good job. And where do we have Flare Star? Wait, I don't even see him. Oh, there. 107. Not even the most this time, but still really good.
Yeah, but the unit score from FDS is huge.
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely insane, man. I'll check what units he killed, actually. Just everything, I guess.
Yeah.
Who got all the CFOs, I wonder? Mass Flames getting a lot of the... Oh no, that was... Yen took out a lot of the Falconetti. Who was it? Oh, here. Probably No Mercy Palm killed most of the Flamers there. Oh yeah, here.
Oh.
Grim. Yeah, we can see Grimlot in the back line.
Oh, 27 Hussars.
That's always nice.
Couple more flames.
Oh, there's one, yeah. Yeah, if half of your kills are Hussars, then... Oof. Yeah, this is... yeah, the last fight wasn't too bad from Argonautes.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
But I think they just ran out of steam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the quality of the units just wasn't there anymore. I mean, most had already lost their big units, of course, in the first, so... Rough. Alright, that's it. Serfslayer winning this match 2-0. Nice win there. Serfslayer going up in the standings a little bit, I think.
Yeah, definitely great job from them. I think Argonauts could have played a little better on rotations and setting up where they want to set up better, but you know, it's hard to do that against a good team like Serfslayers.
Yep. Absolutely. And we know that Serfslayer or Argonautes are just like here to learn also a lot. That they pushed up to the Feudal vision like earlier than they probably maybe should have, but they got the opportunity, they took it, and that already deserves praise. So
yeah, I mean they went 1-1 against us, Palm Guards,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
they
quite early in
did
the season,
great
right?
that time.
Yep. Yeah, that actually cost you could say, the season in the end in terms of the 6th place. But of
Yeah,
course,
possibly.
there's
I
so
mean,
many more
we made a
matches
lot
as
of
well.
mistakes ourselves, and we could
Mhm.
have played better, but yeah.
Definitely true. Alright, so Serfslayer currently sitting in 2nd place. No Beaches will be playing next. So they could go to 15 points as well, and if No Beaches get 15 points, then they will be 2nd because they won early in the season against Serfslayer. So quite critical for No Beaches to win against Slavs, but Slavs sitting at last place, unless they put out a miracle, are expected of course to lose that match. And then Kebabs could still go to 13 points. So probably still sitting at 4th place as well. We'll see.
You know, I think something to make the next season more entertaining would be like, because you know how in the season 0 there were 2 divisions, and then like we had a championship round of like first place of each division fight each other. I think for the next season or whenever, we could have like, because there's only one feudal division now, we could have a match between the first place and the second place in feudal division, but the first place will have some type of advantage. Like maybe it's a best of 3, but they already have 1 win. Because you know, otherwise, like, what's the point of being first
exactly.
or second?
It should be
So
worth
it's
it,
like home court advantage in a way, and then because people would want to see a championship round instead of just, oh, it's the end of the regular season, oh, it's, you know, it's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
that would be fun to watch.
Yeah, and this season, like, kind of the added value, I guess, to keep it interesting was the relegation promotion matches, of course, right, with 7th and 8th place, and also 6th place now, where you ended up, and then you have to a rustic play-in or playoff series, so that's going to be really interesting as well over the next couple of weeks. But for sure, like first place, it's all about consistency throughout the season, right now. But it's also fun to get like a big match. But at the same time, yeah, I'm also kind of still debating that because it is a league right now, and I really like it that it's a league because it means that all teams get to play like equal amount of games. And that was the setup, that we don't want only the good teams to play more games and get better. We want all teams to get better and play games. But again, like I said, just one big match between first and second place would be really fun for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll see. At the same time, that could still happen, right? I mean, if you don't, so what is it? Like Kebabs, they lost a couple games against teams that they shouldn't have lost to. For example, so if let's say what was it again? If Kebabs actually won their match against Odin's Legion, I think, then today's match against Plebs would have been like a finals. Because then they would have been sitting at 12 points. Plebs would have been sitting at something. So they would have been that close that it would have been a final today. And same for No Beaches. If No Beaches hadn't lost against Odin's Legion, then they could have gotten the same amount of points against Plebs, and then they would have been playing a tiebreaker.
Yeah, for us we had our final, but we went 1-1.
Yep. Yeah, you could have had it. Yeah, it would be fun. Yep. Yeah, so there's different ways to look at it for sure.
Yep, I'm gonna take off. I'll still be watching, but I'm just gonna chill out.
Yeah, have fun, man. See ya. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. Alright.
Bye.
See ya.
Alright, we're gonna take a quick break because this one was really fast. I'm gonna see if I can get someone in. Actually, Flairstar, if you're in the chat, I'm gonna get you in if I can because you've been on a rampage this past couple of days or weeks. So see you guys in a bit. We'll be back.